What's up? This is kind of a personal vlog. Just more so for myself, but interesting for other people and be informative. Specifically for the people that follow a lot of my Spiritism theory and spiritual kind of, research and all that. Anyway, for the record, today is the 1st of December, 2020. And just for a side note, having that eclipse conjunct with my Ascendant and my Chiron, my Chiron and Galactic Center opposition is my psychic signature, where I am able to just randomly know things, the claircognizant thing where I get random information and I piece things together. With this lunar eclipse just happening there, and then it's going to also be on the galactic, aligned with my Galactic Center and my descendant, opposing my other aspect with the psychic signature, the Chiron thing. I'm going to be having a lot of not intuitive breakthroughs, but I'm kind of going to be piecing things together, because Sagittarius is all about knowledge and conclusions with information that you're being fed. So we're going to talk about some of my parapsychology research and investigations that I've done for the last few years now. To save myself the headache of editing, because I am just kind of rambling and venting, I've already got like 10 or so random clips here, and I usually try to mesh my trains of thought together, but they're all over the place, and I'm not going to sit here for like 3 or 4 hours fucking editing it and trying to make it sound like it's all a cohesive discussion. There are random clips of me just meandering about my parapsychology theory, the conclusions I've recently made with all of my, spiritual theory with my father's death, draconic charts, soul charts, and why dead people are actually not here anymore, and how reincarnation's a thing. I kind of touch base on a lot of this stuff. Just letting you know, this is going to be a scattered discussion. I'm just going to be all over the place. And this is just a disclaimer. Good luck. I mean, there's some interesting insight in some of these clips, but they're all not going to be one cohesive, speech. So, as some people know, I am a medium, and that's an ability that I was born with. But as with any skill that you have to develop, regardless of what it is, you have to work on it. And if you don't acknowledge it and embrace those skills or those talents, they never manifest. 3.5 years ago, which that's a longer story, I'm not going to include that in this video, because God knows I'm probably going to ramble more than I'm willing to rewatch it, or and that me projecting to anybody else. I don't know if they're all going to watch it. Anyway, that's for another story, maybe for the book that I'm supposed to write. But 3 years ago, the paranormal phenomenon started escalating. And me being me, a problem solver, I had to figure out what the fuck was going on. I've always been drawn to cemeteries, and it's because the cemeteries are running rampant with spirits everywhere. I assumed, like a lot of people do, like a lot of people like to cling on to the hope that the spirits that are in the cemetery are the spirits of the dead. That is absolutely false in every which way, and I'm going to explain why. So, I've gone to cemeteries and felt things, and I decided to try to make some dialogue with them. I go, hey, I just go, everybody at the cemetery, would anybody like to come forward and tell me who they are, talk about their life, anything they want to vent? There were things that would come forward and give me random information. Some of it was, them toying with me and giving me information that was completely irrelevant and just getting a rise out of me. And some of them were threats, and then some of them were like random actual information in the future for me. When I asked these entities who they were, they would never identify themselves. I found that odd, no matter where I went. But if you turn on one of these apps or devices, or do the connecting with the spirits like I do, and say, I'd like to talk to Joe. Shockingly enough, regardless where Joe is, Joe will come and talk to you. And if they get in your head and they realize who Joe is, and they kind of feel into the memories or the thoughts that you have of Joe, and they will mimic Joe. They'll paraphrase things that you recall about them, things that are associated with them, and say their name is Joe. I have a very, very serious newsflash for everybody. That's not Joe. Those are the when we're talking about pagan lore, those are the chaos entities, the ether spirits, even from Babylonian lore. I've done some astrological theories with Origins of Saturn video on the Babylonian ethers. They are born out of chaos. So getting away from the concept of good and light and dark and evil, that's a Christian kind of thing that's black and white. A very misconstrued perception of things. Just like there are people alive that aren't inherently like completely evil and completely good. The same kind of thing has to happen on the spirit side as well. As above, so below, yin and yang. For our world to exist the way it is, the world on the other side has to mirror it. So the chaos spirits, you have to think of, when you think of like occult theories. So instead of vaguely describing a diagram that I wasn't even quoting right, I decided to find it and give a visual. So the Vatir spirits, whites, and chaos spirits are obviously associated with Norse or pagan lore. It gets away from the black and white kind of evil versus good kind of thing, even though this chart shows that there's chaotic good, chaotic evil, chaotic neutral. It shows that the whites are guardians or guides, or spirits that are kind of helping you out, even guardian angels or angels in general, would be classified in the Vatir spirits, where their intentions, regardless if it's chaotic, neutral, or lawful, are good. Their intentions are good. When we look at the chaos spirits of the demons, they can be potentially neutral, whether it be lawful, true, or chaotic, or they can be evil. So they may not have premeditated malicious intent, and that would be the neutral. And both the Vatirs as well as the chaos spirits or the ether spirits can be neutral, so, or they could be on the extreme side of the spectrum, meaning constructive or helpful, or an obstacle and problems. Instead of it looking like good and light, it's order, divine order, and then instead of dark and evil, it's chaos, because people coming in and fucking your shit up and causing you problems is, people would interpret that a lot as evil. I mean, on an extreme kind of example, somebody coming in and randomly, murdering you, regardless if it was premeditated or not, would be considered, terrible and evil, that somebody's life was taken. But that's just chaos, so you have to look at it like that. Okay, so chaos spirits love to fuck with people. That's the embodiment of Loki as well in Norse mythology. He is the light bearer. He's associated with the archetype of Lucifer, so information, Mercury, light bearer, and he's willing to give you information, and he's smart, but he's also kind of a shithead, and he will give you information, but the way that he arrives at the information will likely cause you problems or be a headache. All those chaos spirits follow in that kind of personality or archetype. So, bear with me here. I've been subjecting myself, which, because I didn't have any kind of knowledge or concepts of spiritual protection, any of the ritual magic that I currently do now, the seeker magic and my vulva abilities that I've been developing within the last year. The first 2 or 3 years 2 years of me doing this experimentation with this research, I was completely unprotected. I got possessed multiple times. I was locking myself in the bathroom thinking that there's things after me, all kinds of stuff. It was nuts. And luckily I started documenting everything that was going on and publicizing it. Most people would feel apprehensive with doing that, or feeling self-conscious because people would think they're crazy. But I specifically knew that regardless if I told people publicly or not, or documented it or not, people were going to think I'm fucking nuts, because it was crazy what's going on. I could not avoid it. It was fated. That's going into why it all started escalating 3 years ago. I'll go into that another time. So instead of looking like a nutcase and going and, you know, having a reservation for the next psychiatric ward bed, I decided to document everything and be completely transparent. So when weird shit would happen, the spirits would say, this shit's gonna happen, and it happens, and then I have documentation proof that it happened to me. People can't fucking say, dude, she's nuts. I mean, people still will, but if it came down to defending myself, my own sanity, I have evidence to the contrary that I'm not crazy. So that was kind of just clarification for me to review that, so I didn't, so I could process what the fuck is going on, because it was crazy. It's crazy. 5 years ago, I was an atheist, okay? So way different perspective has been happening very, very quickly. So going back to dead people are not dead people anymore. Let's tie in the astrological stuff. I think probably about 5 years ago, when I got my Solar Fire software, I was looking at different charts. I made fun of Alyssa Sharp, who's a YouTube astrologer, if you call her that, an astrologer. She started blabbing about draconic charts, and she obviously doesn't know what the fuck she's talking about with anything. That was my whole point and frustration with why I made those videos, which wasn't very nice of me, but I digress. Anyway, the reason why I felt compelled to make that is because I was supposed to fixate on draconian charts. So when I looked at draconian charts, I obviously used my own chart as an example first and foremost because I know myself best, and you should also use astrology to utilize knowing yourself and helping yourself. I strongly encourage people to learn at least the basics of their own chart and astrology so they can reflect and look at it themselves, because, you know, it's a tool that you can use lifelong. So I practice what I preach. I use my own chart specifically to teach myself things and everything. So I went and looked at my draconic chart, and then I compared it to my natal chart, and I'm like, I'm confused. They look like they're almost the same chart, because when you make a draconic chart, you take a natal chart and you just rewind back the degrees for all the points until the north node is at 0 degrees of Aries. I have the north node at 2 degrees of Aries. So that means everything in my chart only had to go back 2 degrees. I was confused about that. I looked at other people's charts that I had, looked at their draconic charts. I've only found 1 or 2 other people that have a chart where all of their planets are still in the same archetypes and signs, like mine is, which confused me. So then I kind of explored, even though I was atheist, I was really delving into my astrology studies, and I was taking it seriously. I looked at the concepts from like Mark Jones, who does, you know, spiritual soul progression astrology and all that, and just looking at the way that the astrological formulas work. The north node and the south node and the cycle insinuates that things repeat. That's what the whole synchronistic kind of thing is about. If it does that on a very a microcosmic level for trends and lives and etc., it would have to be on a macrocosmic level as well, which would be after death. So that right there insinuates that reincarnation or multiple lives is a thing. If that is the case, how on earth do souls just live one life and then go to one ultimate place for eternity and one ultimate place to another? They don't. Those souls continue to go on. That's why there's the spiritual theory with the South Node giving insight into past lives. It's also why there's been people that are, you know, intuitives or have signatures in their chart where, yeah, you'll have some sort of insight with past lives and they can recollect those things. Some people, even depending on how strong some of the signatures are, can even elaborate on things, and it's been validated with facts and all that, and looking at historical records. So, that being said, I was skeptical, and I'm that there was a concept of a heaven and a hell. Clearly, too, the fact that there's spiritual activity going on in our world, our realm, even though we can't see it because it's like in a different kind of dimension of consciousness, and we just visually can't see it because it's not visual. Clearly, there's one of those worlds or whatever that's a little too close to ours for it to be like heaven way out there or hell way down there. So, who the fuck are those people that I've been talking to in cemeteries, every fucking cemetery I've ever gone to? Granted, I'm also a medium and I attract those things, but I get like a whole crowd of them. If I have to walk away and turn it off. Like, and if I don't, I could stay there all day and I will get dozens of different things talking to me. It gets exhausting. And I can't focus on doing that all the time. So, what the fuck are those things? Also, my Goldfield incident. What the fuck is that thing following me that looks exactly like me? Why did it have a facial expression of emotion? Something that would be an inhuman spirit or something that was never human would not have a concept of feelings, because behavior feelings is an instinctual animal thing, which you'd have to be a living thing to have. Also, it was like an anxious look, meaning fear. Fear and anxiety is a survival thing, which would only exist in something that was living. So that being said, the thing that was following me had to have been alive. It looks exactly like me, and it was manifesting as a one of those lines coming directly from my phone when I was talking to something. It was my soul talking to me. So using my draconic being identical with my natal as a specific example at this point, I can apply with what would I do if I saw me in a potential situation, if I was aware that something bad was going to happen. What would I do? I do the same thing I do for everybody else. I immediately tell them everything I know, and I give them constructive advice on how to deal with it, and or prepare. Or like, hey dude, you're in fucking danger. So, exactly what I would do in the way I would respond to this is how my soul responded to me in Goldfield. And it was, I said I wasn't going to go into this, but again, I'm just doing it. That's the reason why all this paranormal stuff started escalating. Because my soul was like, dude, this sweet gig about me being basically incarnated into a physical being as my soul's personality, the gravy train's about to fucking stop. Because this bitch's, physical incarnated father's basically gonna end up getting her killed, and this is bullshit. I'm gonna have to, get her attention. Like, wake up. You're gonna have to learn some crafty shit. You're gonna have to reverse fate. You're gonna have to learn some witchcraft from your ancestors to reverse your fate and not die, because I ain't ready to go yet. That's basically what happened. That's why the whole Goldfield thing happened the way it did. A lot of people aren't going to be able to connect or, I guess, vibe with their soul as easily as I do, because literally it's like I'm a doppelganger. But when your soul has a completely different personality than you, sometimes it's difficult for you guys to be on the same page or even communicate. What was I getting at? Let's speed forward to, I obviously had speculations that reincarnation had to be a thing for the astrology to work the way it does. The fact that my predictions are correct, the fact that my interpretations are correct, the fact that my accuracy is consistent would mean that 2 + 2 = 4, meaning that if everything is working formula-wise with astrology, that would insinuate that cycles occur after life as well. That would reinforce the reincarnation thing. Your draconic chart is your soul. Your draconic chart, when it looks completely different than your natal chart, it is its own personality. It doesn't have a name, obviously. I mean, it might have a nickname on that side, but it's not going to tell you that because you're not going to even know. I'm not even going to go there. So your draconic chart is who your soul is. Who you are right now does not exist anywhere else but here. When you die, the existence of who you are in this life dies with that. It doesn't exist anymore, except for in, obviously, memories. Your soul will obviously remember, okay, that was life 500 and blah, 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 blah. I was a woman then, I did this, I did that, and I should probably not do that again. Mental note. And then that's it. The existence of that life is irrelevant. That being said, let's go ahead and go full circle with the chaos spirits, which in Christian equivalent would be demonic things. So for people who are Christian inclined or more versed in Christian lore, you can think of devilish tricks, those kinds of things. The chaos spirits like to fuck with people, going back to the Loki mischievous kind of thing. So they love to convince the living that their dead loved ones are there. And also, Those chaos spirits can follow you if they can sense your energy. A lot of times, living people can't see these spirits or sense them, and a lot of times those spirits can't sense people. It's like a dead zone. Dead zone. You guys are passing each other and you're not even aware, unless you have an energy like mine where you are drawing them to you, or you decide to do something stupid and start doing seances or using Ouija boards or doing all that kind of stuff or doing ghost hunting stuff. Then you're calling shit and getting things attention and asking for it. So then for people who are parapsychology inclined or into ghost hunting or haunted stuff, let's kind of go over some of the things that, like, wait a second, what about the lady in white or whatever that can be historically tied to somebody who existed in a haunted castle somewhere? Those are residual hauntings. Just like with synchronicity, how things can repeat, psychic stains or the stains of consciousness can be left. And you'll see residual hauntings are its own thing. They're not actual chaos entities. They're not the lingering spirit of the dead. They cannot interact with you. It's almost like a movie picture. That explains those. And as for, trying to think. Okay, so how demonic things can attach, the chaos or entities or demonic things can attach to you. They do like to, like in the Babylonian lore, they like to nestle their way into the hearts of men to indulge in their passions, pleasures, and senses. You can actually have some sort of chaos entity or demonic entity attached to you throughout the majority of your life. A lot of people that have misfortune and get ill a lot, all that, have mental illness, there's all kinds of symptoms. I have a book that's called Ghost Symptoms, really great book. Goes over all the quote-unquote general mundane symptoms that people would never think are associated with spirit attachment and partial possession. When you're possessed, it doesn't mean that, like, you're not you or anything like that. You've just literally got something that's, like, directly feeding thoughts into your head that's influencing your actions. And you think they're your own thoughts. You don't even... Anyway, so if you had some sort of chaos entity or demonic entity attached to you for a long time, it absorbs your thoughts, it absorbs your behavior, because it influences you. It's like the devil on your shoulder, like, oh yeah, you like to gamble, you should go get that $1,000 from blah 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 blah, and you should go blow it. They start to enjoy the things that they can get you to indulge in. So they basically, as they attach to you, they meld in with you, and they embody a dark side of you, more or less, because they are a dark entity, obviously. When that person dies, and their soul moves on, because their soul's an entirely different thing, that chaos entity that is now, basically made itself a cookie cutter cutout of that person that was living, still exists, and likely could carry on, potentially, the mannerisms, behavior, or personality even, and even identity to fuck with more people, of the person that died. And that would be the logical explanation as to any kind of like parapsychology photos capturing somebody who looks like a dead person there, that sort of thing. For example, again, the Lizzie Borden house, there's a photo of Abby Borden that's up in the window, and it looks exactly like her portrait. And because of the murders that happened there, because of the father doing his devil worship for his money and all that, and all the crazy shit that's happened in that house, people using Ouija boards and all that stuff, there's plenty of things in that house, especially with everything that went home with everyone, they basically see these photos and all that. They can easily just mimic all the people there, easily. Yeah, so basically what I'm getting at is that when you drop dead, you don't exist anymore. People who are grieving or people who are trying to connect with their dead loved ones, they're gone. The only opportunity you could have is maybe to talk to their soul. But even talking to my own father's soul, it was like talking to a whole other person. I mean, she cares for me on some level, which is why she reached out to me to try to warn me that I'm going to basically get myself killed because of my father. But synchronicity, look back at astrologically, I was told, my father told me, like, when I was a teenager, my parents were splitting up, that, you know, the only reason why I'm even born is because my mother really wanted kids, and when she was pregnant with me, my dad begged her to abort me, to get rid of me. It's kind of crazy he even said that straight to my face like that, but like just straight face. And so 32 years ago, my father was directly involved in my potential demise before I was even born. Synchronicity happens. Now I'm going through my Saturn return cycle, or Saturn was in the same place that it was when I was born. There are trends or different events that are transpiring or unfolding that are directly involved with him, people that are were directly involved in his life that were planning to kill me. There's synchronicity for you right there. So I knew, with his soul warning me about this, obviously, and then understanding synchronicity of what he told me, and also seeing I have a death signature coming up, you know, and then also being directly told who's going to do it and all that jazz. Like, I got way too much information, obviously. I knew that somebody directly associated with my dad was going to be involved in my death. And that just reinforces kind of the cycles over and over again. Also, in my personal life, as some people may know, my father just recently died, August 31st, 2020. I was told about it 3 years ago. Actually, the reason why I was told about it, a side note, wasn't because it was like trying to warn me, oh, get ready to grieve, your dad's gonna die. It's actually, it was saying, hey, your dad's about to die, and his bullshit's about to get you killed, so you better fucking, like, get in the know and be prepared, because people are gonna come after you and try to murder you. Hence why I already know about all the stuff going on. And a side note too, I'm intentionally publicizing all that because it would be really stupid for somebody to, you know, who's secretly plotting a murder to follow through with the murder unless, you know, they just want to be locked up or kill themselves afterwards, which could totally be plausible. I'm not even gonna put that paranoid idea in my head. They wouldn't go through with it if there's evidence of who did it, where it happened, and all that jazz, and all the information to find the murderer was publicized beforehand. So I've been intentionally plastering it everywhere. And that is actually what saved my ass. So I look totally fucking crazy, as if I'm making up some sort of potential murder plot, but I'm well fucking aware that it was actually going to happen, and I'm well fucking aware that it was in the works, and I got away barely, and I'll get away barely in about 6 months. But that being said, sunlight is the best disinfectant for that, and I don't care if I look crazy. If I look crazy and I you know, predict and start plastering things publicly that are going to happen, misfortunes to me, and then they don't happen, it's because I basically told on them before they did it, so they didn't do it. Because I literally make those public posts and then I send them directly to the person that it's about, so they know that I know that they're going to be fucked if they do something. Anyway, I'm not going to meander on that. So, back to what I was saying about the souls. So, with my father recently dying, I was never able to get his birth chart because he didn't believe in astrology. That was stupid. He's like, I don't care if you rip people off to make money as long as you're successful, whatever. So I found my father's baby book, and I got his birth data. And then I decided to look at his draconic chart just for shits and giggles. He is completely different from who he was in his life. And what's weird is that his draconic chart is a Leo with a Taurus rising. And it's really weird because now looking back at some of my transcripts and some of the things that has talked to me, there's continuously been a Leo entity that has been telling me about Dad's death for years. And it was specifically my father's soul coming back to say, hey, you don't deserve to die for your father's mistakes. My dad's soul actually abandoned him, which a lot of people's souls will, especially now with the whole Aquarian consciousness happening, the ascension process. Like, souls are basically going to go, you're a lost fucking cause, dude. You are not catching on to what you're supposed to be doing. I'm just gonna abandon you. You're gonna, just basically rot away and die so I can reincarnate into something else because I'm done with you. So my father's soul did that too. My father's soul is also, I kept getting a feeling that it's a woman, and also I've had a woman voice talk to me before. I confirmed and I talked to that thing. What's funny is that my father's soul didn't want to talk to me when he died, when it moved on. It even pretended that it was gone when I was viewing my father's body, because I sat there for like an hour and a half visiting my dad's body, turning on my apps, using my divination stuff, being a fucking weirdo, trying to get him to talk to me. I'm like, if I can get anybody to fucking talk to me, I was like, I know that dead people or whatever don't stick at that point in time. Dead people don't stick around very long. That's at least as far as I knew. That was the conclusions that I came to at the time. I was like, but I figured since he'd only been dead for like, a week and a half, that he would still be around somewhere and can answer me or something. There were some random voices that were telling me, oh, he's already halfway there, and I'm like, halfway where? It was a woman's voice, and actually now that I'm pretty confident that it was my dad's soul pretending to be like a white or something like that to tell me, oh yeah, he can't talk to you, he's gone, bye. And so I got pissed, and I was like, why the fuck can I talk to all these other things? Why can I get information about other people's dead relatives? Not directly from them, but information from other spirits. But I'm not getting anything from my dad. Not getting any information about my dad. This is bullshit. So I invoked the gods and made a spellbind. And I said, you make my dad's soul get the fuck over here right now and talk to me. So he had to. And it came forward, and it was a woman. And I said, how come you're not talking to me? And basically she told me it's difficult to talk about. And this is before the events the events that would transpire to save my ass were actually in effect. Up into late September to early October, everything was still basically escalating to where I was going to be dead by next year. I did some things, obviously, the gods intervened and all that jazz, and that's kind of elaborated on a different vlog I have. To where I'm now not going to die. So, between the beginning of October to now, fate has been changed. The web of weird has been restitched or rewoven. So, this conversation happened before I was saved, or when my father's soul thought I was going to die still. So, she, being my father's soul, was feeling guilty and unwilling to confront or basically take responsibility, which I think, which kind of actually floored me for a second, and then made me also kind of think humbly how, as above, so below, yin and yang, our world, their world. We're imperfect, conscious beings. They're imperfect, conscious beings on a soul level as well. Why wouldn't that person just be all-knowing and all-accepting, like everybody in spirituality fucking thinks, and just say, hey, I'll just be totally frank with you. In this recent life, I made some poor decisions that put you in danger. I'm sorry. The reason why I didn't want to talk to you is because I felt bad that, that basically poor decisions I made in the last moments of my life are going to end up leading to your death. Why couldn't you just be the big person and do that? Because the soul didn't want to talk to me about it. And she was forced to because the gods made her. So I kind of felt a little bit, I'm not angry at my dad or my dad's soul or whatever, that both of them, but I'm just kind of floored that, accountability. I like to take accountability for things. My soul, being almost exactly the same incarnate as I am now, likes to take accountability for things, so I'm projecting, I guess. But, so I was asking my dad's soul, which is apparently not just a Leo. So my dad's spirit is its own personality. That's what the draconic thing is. It is a Leo woman. And I asked and confirmed. I'm like, are you a lady spirit? And that's also one of my hypothesis with, people feeling gender fluid or not being the same, feeling like they're a different gender inside or whatever like that. It's because their soul's trying to connect with them and say, hey dude, you gotta fucking wake up before I leave your ass, because of the transits going on with the Aquarian ascension or whatever. and they're not grasping that their soul's trying to like get their attention, so they're only picking up like subconscious things probably in their dreams, and they're like, I feel like a girl all of a sudden, I should get a sex change right now. I was like, no, that's your soul that's probably a girl trying to get your fucking attention. Yeah. So anyway, so when Dad died, Ken Foose, the male Pisces that he was born to be, no longer existed. Nothing. He's nowhere. There's no ghost to him, no nothing like that. The only thing, and Dad's soul left him before he even died, which is likely why he just dropped dead of a heart attack, and there was no comorbidity, causes. I also think, his ex-wife also drove him into an early grave of stress, but I digress. Anyway, so my dad's just been going, soulless, an empty vessel, which happens a lot more often than people realize. So, again, once you die, that you're gone. There is no, like, if you start hearing voices or you swear that you see something that looks like your father or my father or whatever, it's not. In fact, the Lizzie Borden shadow thing tried to pretend to be my dad for a while, and I caught on real quick to that. And that was very cruel, and that taught me that solidified very, very firmly what I know now. That my dad, or the personality that was my dad, is dead and gone with him. And my dad's soul is just waiting to reincarnate. And it happens rather quickly. There is no heaven, there is no whatever. The light that people see is like the endorphins and all that, and the chemicals in your brain and your sensory perception, basically when everything shuts down, because the light usually happens right after you die. It's just your brain is actually still having neurological connections and being active when you die, unless your brain is like totally annihilated and that's your cause of death. So it's the last signals going on in your brain that causes these sensory perceptions primarily. Also the void, which is the other dimension to the spirit world, is overlapping with ours, and when you go into that, you see some sort of light. And that's what the light's about. It's not going to a heaven or anything like that. It's basically your soul like exiting this side. Because you have no business, once you're dead, your soul has no business over here. It needs to go to the next room over and wait for its next turn for another life. So after rewatching this, everything I said makes sense, but I don't even know. There's no obviously train of thought that I can conclude on. So I guess I'll just kind of paraphrase what I was trying to get in this video. So my direct personal experiences with my father's death and what I've learned with my parapsychology research, and basically coming to conclusions of things that I've been piecing together for years now is finally happening. And I gather, I'm feeling fairly confident at this point. I know astrology is always going to be incorporated to everything I do, because I speak, my language is astrology pretty much. That the book that I'm supposed to write is supposed to be about the altruistic perspective of spirituality. And as you can tell from my little snippets of rambling and incoherent thoughts that aren't tied together, it's going to be something that likely, I'm sure other people have concluded this throughout human history and it's been covered up or something, because occult, hello, but this will be something that I'm going to share with the world, I guess, whatever. Anyway, I just felt like I needed to get this out, because not necessarily to teach other people, but because my Mercury conjunct Pluto causes and it being a Scorpio in general, causes my mentality, my brain to shift gears or perspectives really quickly and rapidly. Hence, for example, me being an atheist 5 years ago, and now I just, you know, a couple weeks ago I just got a tattoo to a god put on my leg, and all that. You know, what I may think or what I may find out or conclude, even in a month or two from now, could be on a whole other level than what is right now. So I think it's important for me to see like my progress to like my reflection, my conclusions, or my hypothesis. I wouldn't say conclusions, because conclusions would be an indefinite thing. But the things that I understand at that point in time. I'm not, and there's other things that I'm not ready to go into yet about this tattoo on my leg, and anyway, I'm just gonna go. I could ramble all day long, and damn, this Gemini eclipse is just making me really scattered. I know that's a theme in general for people, but scattered. And the degree for Mercury right now is at 29 degrees of Scorpio. I'm usually 2 days ahead of everything. That means that technically I'm already feeling the Sagittarius Mercury vibe, which is already scattered. Like, Sagittarius Mercury is associated with ADD, not being able to focus. So the Gemini lunar eclipse plus Mercury going to Sagittarius, I'm all over the fucking place, and that's clearly evident by this damn video. Goodbye. I'm just gonna go. Goodbye.